And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Howdy everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Islands in the Mist. You done singing? You done? All right, let's talk about this game. In this game, which has a kind of a cool cover, you're in a hot air balloon flying around discovering the land below the clouds. What is that land? You decide what that land is. That doesn't make any sense. Well, that's because the theme don't matter here. You're just basically drafting tiles in a method that I haven't seen used in a game in a while, which comes from an older game called Coloretto or Zularetto. Here you're waiting till tiles build up to take them, but also moving your hot air balloon around and manipulating the wind and going a different direction in the wind. Yeah, I really don't understand the theme here, but hey, that doesn't matter. Let's take a look at how it plays. Each player is going to have their own player board, and in the middle of it, they're going to put their hot air balloon. Over here, you're going to have a direction marker, which is going to keep track of which way the wind is blowing, and you'll have energy track at the top, as well as spy glasses to put the different tiles that you have. Each player will start with one. Each turn of the game, whoever goes last is going to roll 2 dice. One of these dice is going to show you what direction the wind is going to blow. The other die is going to give everybody a bonus. Like this one lets everyone draw a tile from the bag. This one gives everyone an energy. This lets everybody add one to their movement on the turn, or you can change direction or reverse direction. The person who rolls the dice can decide to re-roll either or both dice. It's up to them. But once the dice are rolled, the direction is set, and then players are going to take turns in turn order. On your turn, you're going to move your balloon equal to the number on the tile that you're on. So this tile starts on a 3, and if I was on a 0, I would go 0, wouldn't move at all, in the direction. So let's say this is east. I would go 1, 2, 3, moving over there. You can add or subtract movement if you pay energy at the top here, so you have an energy that you're able to spend. You also can even go a completely different direction. But if you do so, let's say I wanted to go northwest, I would have to slow down. So I'd have to pay 3 to slow down to 0. Then I would pay 2 for each space I want. So let's say I wanted to go 2 spaces in this direction. That would be a total cost of 7 energy, which is a lot. After players have decided where they're going to move, they're going to take one of these cloud tokens. So at the beginning of each round, every cloud is going to have a tile added to it. And there's a certain number of clouds. So here in a 4-player game, there would be 7 clouds out there. So maybe last turn, no one took these 2. So now each of these have 2. And they can have a maximum of 3. And whichever ones you take, you're going to put in your spy glasses, or you immediately discard it and take the energy equal to the number shown on the tile. So that's one of the ways to get energy. After that's been done, players can then place the tiles that they've gotten adjacent to where their balloon is. So I could put both these tiles out here. Sometimes when you put a tile out, something might happen. There's some spots on the board that if you cover them up, you get energy. This one has negative points. If I don't cover it up, I'm going to lose points by the end of the game. But some also let you draw a tile out of the bag. And you can see there's some good stuff around the edges of the board, but if you get to the edge of the board, you might be bouncing around there for a while, waiting for a direction that lets you come back in the middle. Player turn order is then determined by whoever is on the highest number here. So if you end on a 5, you have a better chance of going before somebody else. If there's a tie, whoever has least energy breaks that tie. And then remember, dice go to the person who's going to go last each round. The game ends when one player has connected their center area to all 6 terrain types, all 6 codes of a different terrain type, and if that's connected to the middle through other terrain tiles, doesn't matter which kind, then that ends the game. You're going to score points from various things. Uncovered volcanoes are worth negative points. Where you are on the energy track up here will score you points. You can see that I get 8 points there. Monuments in the game are going to score points. Each monument will score you points based on whoever has the most. If you have the most, they're worth 3 points. 2 points to the second most, 1 point to the third most. Ties are friendly. Cities will score you 1 point for each terrain token next to them. And you're also going to score points if you're the first person to do all the connection to the side. but the main points are coming from the terrain tiles themselves. You want groups of terrain tiles that are also touching their area. So, for example, in the sand area here, I have a sand tile, but it's not touching, so it doesn't matter. Or at least touching these. These are going to count. So for each one, I get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And this wild one, which counts for everyone, gives me 1 point. So 15 points. And if you have 5 or more tiles, it's a bonus of 3. So that's 18 points I got. While for this land over here, the plains, I only get 2 points. For the swamp, I get 2, 4, 6, plus the wild is 7. So wilds are only worth 1 point, but they can count towards multiple things. For the trees, 2, 4, 6. For the mountains, 2, 4, 5. And you're going to add together all your points, and whoever has the most is the winner. The components in the game are fine. They're not amazing. Each board has 2 sides. You're going to use one side for a slightly more advanced game. This arrow is a little big to go on the spots, but the tiles look good as they laid out. I think the tiles are fine, and the cloud tiles, they're functional and everything works well. The hot air balloon looks like a joystick controller rather than a hot air balloon. So I don't know that things are fantastically component-wise. There's a score sheet to keep track of everything, although it doesn't really tell you how to score, but it has spots for all of them. The game also comes with 2 modules that you can play with. One introduces a harbor, which is a very convoluted way to get more tiles. And the other module, you actually flip the top board here, and it has special buildings. Each player starts with the same number of these buildings that you can build that will do various things, like give you more spots to put terrain tiles that you can store, and that might give you a better movement ability, so you can build these. So you can add these modules to the game if you want more complexity. As I said, the idea of adding tiles to those clouds and picking a cloud tile is very similar to the very popular Zulureto or Coloreto. In this one, it's a smaller mechanism. I like that mechanism a lot, but here, very rarely does a cloud get to 3 tiles, and the rules even say if it has 3 tiles and no one wants them, they're discarded. But I've never seen it. I mean, if there's 3 tiles, you can discard them for energy. It just seems like a very useful thing. So very rarely will there be tiles out there even with 3 on them. So while it's a neat mechanism, it doesn't really come into play. What does come into play and what is important in this game is turn order. You want to go first or last, because last controls those dice. The direction is a big deal. Being able to re-roll that and re-roll the other die are pretty handy things to do. But you are picking last from the clouds that are up there. The first player gets to go first. They get any cloud that they want with the tiles that are on it. And you just feel like you have a bit of control. Energy is the currency of this game. But this currency of energy in this game has a really weird ebb and flow. At the beginning of the game, you're trying to use energy to go around and place the tiles exactly where you want. And as you place these tiles on the board, you will start landing on these tiles that you've placed, which gives you more and more movement, allowing you freedom to bounce all over the place. But energy, you can run into a problem where you have no energy, which really slows your game down. I have no energy, so I take a tile, I spend that tile to get energy, so now I can move away from where I want, but I don't have tiles to place, so it doesn't really matter. And it feels like you kind of lose a turn in a sense. And near the end of the game, you suddenly go, well, I get points for having a lot of energy. They're not inconsequential points, so I better get as much energy as I can. And so because of that, the game at the beginning has this, you need energy or else, and at the end of the game, get energy, but don't spend it. I just felt like it was an odd flow. The energy felt like it was a currency that turned into points, and not in a way that I thought was fun. Another thing I thought that was not fun is the modules themselves. The third module, or module 2, whatever, the special buildings, that's neat. That harbor where there's an extra whole piece here that has a bunch of rules where your balloon can fly off the board and onto this to collect tiles or trade tiles to come back. Come on. It is so convoluted for almost no addition to the game. It's just a way to trade tiles in, and yet there's a whole page of rules. The original rules for the game are very short, and this adds a lot more rules for a very minor thing. I'd never play that one again. But the base game itself, is fine. It's interesting. You're trying to connect stuff. You decide whether you get cities. But it feels like it's not interesting enough. There's interesting things to it, and I had fun, and it was pleasant. But it's very forgettable. I mean, I played it a couple weeks ago, and I had to go back and refresh going through this because it was like, oh yeah, it was nice, it was fine, but I really feel like in a year, I'm not going to remember much about this game at all. It's kind of an interesting theme, but as I said at the beginning, the theme doesn't really matter about flying the balloon. The direction dice, there's some cool things here, but with the production looking like an older game, and it kind of feels like an older game. It feels like a game that came out in the 90s, which is fine. There were some great games that came out in the 90s, but most of those games have been replaced by better games today. This feels like one of those older games transplanted till now. And I sit there and go, yeah, it's cool. Did you find this at a garage sale? No, this is a new game? Okay, it's not bad. The problem is there's so many games out there right now that it's not bad is not something I want to say about games. You may like it. It may be super fun. You might like that changing directions. I just don't know that there's a lot of, more things to find in this game. I don't think it's an overly deep game. And at the same time, I don't think it's snappy enough to make people want to keep playing it over and over again. So it's fine, but I don't know if it's fine is good enough. I'm Tom Vasel, and that's Islands in the Mist. See you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, interesting and nice.